Now, before we get into Belisarius and his times, there's one thing that I would like to ask you about because this is what led me to how I found you and reach out to you. We've used the term a couple of times, Byzantine, and people talk about the Byzantine Empire. When I was a kid, well, history was always my thing, so I'd read ahead in history class, and I got this idea in my head that there was the Roman Empire, then the West fell apart, and the East became the Byzantine Empire until it was conquered by the Ottoman Empire. And then I found out later there never that term was a historical creation that was applied after the fact. Can you explain that to the audience why the term is somewhat of a misnomer and there was no actual Byzantine Empire?
Sure, glad to. So the empire that we refer to sometimes in modern scholarship and very frequently in textbooks. So if any of you are likely to come across it in your earlier schooling, it's going to be in a textbook most likely in the context of a larger class like Western civilization or maybe AP European or something like that. Um, this term Byzantine Empire refers to the ancient Roman Empire in its medieval phase. So there is, I think we start with this fact, there is no break in continuity in the ancient Roman Empire. The date that everybody memorizes for a end of the Roman Empire is 476. This is when a Germanic general in Italy overthrew an emperor in Italy. But there were multiple emperors of the Roman Empire at the time. So even though this brought an end to imperial rule in Italy, the Roman state continued in other regions, primarily in the Eastern Mediterranean. And there was an unbroken chain of emperors from the reign of Augustus, usually acknowledged as the first emperor, all the way through to the reign of Constantine the 11th, who died in Constantinople in 1453, some 1500 years after Augustus had begun to take power. So there's no break in continuity. So why do we have this term Byzantine Empire then, if it's really just the Roman Empire extended on into the Middle Ages? And the answer to that all comes down to political wranglings and really a desire to strip the medieval Romans of their Roman identity. So if we turn to early medieval history, all the way up to the 7th century, even to the beginning of the 8th century, the peoples who lived in what we today call Italy, France, Germany, believed that the Roman emperor ruling in Constantinople was a Roman emperor ruling over Roman people. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the 8th century, this began to change. And medieval Western rulers began to refer to these Romans as Greeks and to their empire as the Empire of the Greeks, sometimes the Empire of Constantinople, based on their capital. The reason they did this was so that they could claim the title of Roman for themselves, because starting in the middle of the 8th century, the rulers of the Franks in what is today France and Western Germany uh, began to claim a relationship with the popes. The popes would give them a crown them as kings. And then, of course, the most famous one is Charlemagne, who was crowned not just king of the Franks, but also uh, emperor ruling the Romans. And from that point on, there was a decisive push in propaganda in both political courts in the medieval West and at the court of the papacy to acknowledge that it was the West which had a medieval Roman Empire and that the East was simply ruled by Greeks. It was a Greek emperor. And so they did not give them the title of Roman. So this continued on for a long time. In fact, all the way up into the early modern period, Empire of the Greeks or Empire of Constantinople was the primary term that Westerners used to refer to what we today call the Byzantine Empire. However, there's another change starting in the 19th century. And this comes when the modern Greek nation gains its independence from the Ottoman Empire. And there is some concern on the behalf of Western powers that the modern Greek nation may seek to remake um, the Byzantine Empire, the medieval Roman Empire, and take over from the Ottomans many of these lands. So, to sort of dissuade that, many scholars began to refer to this thing they had previously called the Empire of the Greeks as the Byzantine Empire, a nebulous name based on the Latin term for the capital in an earlier period, Byzantium. And from Byzantium, we get the term Byzantine Empire. And this then strips the empire also of identity as a Greek state, so that the modern Greeks wouldn't feel like they had to continue it by reconstituting it. So we go through lots of phase changes in how Western academics and Western power centers looked at the medieval Roman Empire. First, it's Roman, then it's Greek, then it's neither Roman nor Greek, and it's the sort of nebulous thing called Byzantium. So throughout all of it, there is a desire to deny the reality that these people called themselves Roman and, in fact, were Roman by every measurement that they understood. So that's the long answer.